morning sun cast long shadows across the cobblestones of Windsor Castle, as Queen Camilla adjusted the magnificent St. Edward's crown upon her head. The ancient symbol of British monarchy, adorned with precious gems that had witnessed centuries of royal history, felt heavier than usual today. She stood before the ornate mirror in her private chambers, studying her reflection with a mixture of pride and uncertainty. Today marked her first official solo engagement since the coronation, and she was determined to prove herself worthy of the crown she now wore. The weight of tradition pressed upon her shoulders as heavily as the jeweled circlet itself. She had spent years preparing for this moment, learning the intricate protocols and ceremonies that defined royal life. Yet nothing could truly prepare someone for the reality of being queen. Lady Margaret, her trusted lady-in-waiting, approached with careful steps. The elderly woman had served the royal family for over 4 decades and had witnessed the transformation of many individuals who entered the palace walls. She observed the queen's nervous energy with knowing eyes, remembering similar moments with other royals who had faced their first major public appearances. "Your Majesty appears radiant this morning," Lady Margaret offered gently, adjusting a fold in the Queen's ceremonial robes. The deep blue fabric, embroidered with golden thread depicting the royal coat of arms, flowed elegantly around Camilla's figure. Every stitch had been placed with precision by the finest seamstresses in the kingdom, creating a garment that embodied both beauty and authority. Queen Camilla turned from the mirror, her expression thoughtful. She had often wondered what it would feel like to wear the crown that had adorned the heads of monarchs for generations. The reality was both more magnificent and more daunting than she had imagined. The jewels caught the light with each movement, sending rainbow reflections dancing across the chamber walls, but their beauty came with an immense responsibility. The schedule for the day was carefully planned, as all royal engagements were. She would visit the new children's hospital in London, meet with the board of directors, tour the facilities, and speak with young patients and their families. It was exactly the type of meaningful work she had hoped to focus on as queen, using her position to bring attention and support to causes that truly mattered. As she made her way through the castle corridors, servants and staff members lined the walls, offering respectful bows and curtsies as she passed. The familiar ritual provided some comfort, a reminder of the established order that had guided the monarchy through countless challenges. Her heels clicked rhythmically against the marble floors, creating an almost musical accompaniment to her procession. The royal car awaited outside, its polished surface reflecting the castle's ancient towers. The driver, a man named Thomas who had served the royal family for 15 years, stood at attention beside the vehicle. His uniform was immaculate, every button gleaming, and his posture spoke of years of military training that had prepared him for royal service. During the drive through London's busy streets, Queen Camilla watched the city pass by through tinted windows. People on the sidewalks occasionally caught glimpses of the royal car and pointed excitedly, some even taking photos with their phones. The connection between the monarchy and the people had evolved significantly over the years, becoming more informal yet maintaining its essential respect and fascination. The children's hospital came into view, a modern building with colorful murals painted on its exterior walls. Young artists from local schools had created the artwork, depicting scenes of hope and healing that would greet families during some of their most challenging times. The sight filled the Queen with warmth, reminding her of the real purpose behind her royal duties. Dr. Sarah Chen, the hospital's chief administrator, waited at the main entrance along with several other staff members. She had worked tirelessly to expand the facility's services and was particularly excited to show the Queen the new wing that would house advanced pediatric equipment. The royal visit would undoubtedly bring additional attention and funding to their vital work. As the car pulled to a stop, Queen Camilla took a deep breath and straightened her crown one final time. The moment had arrived for her to step into her role fully, to engage with the people she now served, and to demonstrate the compassion and dedication that she hoped would define her reign. The door opened, and she emerged into the bright afternoon sunlight, the crown catching the rays and sparkling magnificently. A small crowd had gathered, including members of the press who captured every moment with their cameras. The Queen smiled warmly, acknowledging the enthusiastic greetings from hospital staff and well-wishers who had come to witness this historic visit. Dr. Chen stepped forward to offer the traditional greeting, but as she approached the Queen, something unexpected happened. Her eyes met those of a young security guard who stood near the entrance, a man whose calm presence and alert demeanor immediately caught her attention. Unlike everyone else who had bowed or curtsied upon seeing her, he simply stood straight and tall, offering a respectful nod instead. The moment created a subtle ripple of uncertainty among the gathered crowd. Protocol demanded that all individuals bow or curtsy when meeting the Queen, yet this guard's behavior, while respectful, broke with centuries of tradition. His name tag read James Morrison, and his eyes held a quiet dignity that seemed to suggest his actions were deliberate rather than ignorant. Queen Camilla found herself intrigued rather than offended by this departure from protocol. There was something in the guard's bearing that spoke of integrity and confidence, qualities she had always admired. The brief exchange of glances lasted only seconds, but it left an impression that would linger in her mind throughout the day. As she moved forward to begin the official tour, the Queen couldn't help but glance back at the guard who had chosen to honor her in his own way. The incident, small as it was, had introduced an element of the unexpected into what was supposed to be a carefully orchestrated royal engagement, and somehow that felt refreshing rather than troubling. Dr. Chen guided Queen Camilla through the hospital's main corridors, pointing out various departments and explaining the facility's mission to provide world-class care for children from all backgrounds. The walls were decorated with cheerful artwork and motivational messages, creating an environment that felt more like a community center than a medical facility. The Queen listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions about patient care and treatment outcomes. Meanwhile, James Morrison maintained his position near the main entrance, his eyes continuously scanning the area for any potential security concerns. His background in military service had taught him to remain vigilant while appearing relaxed, a skill that served him well in his current role. Several colleagues had noticed his interaction with the Queen, and whispered conversations began to circulate among the security team. "Did you see what happened with Morrison?" whispered Sandra, another security officer. "He didn't bow to the Queen. That's going to cause problems." Her concern was genuine, as protocol breaches in royal visits were typically addressed swiftly by supervisors. The Royal Protection Unit maintained strict standards, and any deviation from established procedures could result in serious consequences. James overheard the conversation, but remained focused on his duties. His decision had not been made lightly or out of disrespect. Years of military service in various countries had shaped his understanding of respect and dignity, leading him to believe that genuine honor came from one's actions rather than ceremonial gestures. He respected the Queen's position and the institution she represented, but felt that his respectful acknowledgement was equally appropriate. Inside the hospital, Queen Camilla was visiting the children's ward, where young patients eagerly awaited her arrival. 8-year-old Emma, who was recovering from a complex heart surgery, had prepared a handmade card for the royal visitor. The little girl's excitement was infectious, and her parents watched with tears in their eyes as their daughter presented her gift to the Queen. "Your Majesty, I made this for you," Emma said shyly, holding up a colorful card decorated with drawings of crowns and flowers. "The nurses told me you were coming and I wanted to give you something special." Her innocent enthusiasm reminded the Queen of why these visits were so important, connecting the monarchy with real people facing real challenges. Queen Camilla knelt down to Emma's level, accepting the card with genuine gratitude. "This is absolutely beautiful. Emma, thank you so much for thinking of me." The interaction was captured by photographers, but more importantly, it represented the kind of meaningful connection the Queen hoped to foster throughout her reign. These personal moments made the weight of the crown feel worthwhile. As the tour continued, the Queen met with medical staff, learned about innovative treatment programs, and witnessed firsthand the dedication of people who devoted their lives to helping others. Each conversation reinforced her commitment to using her position to support causes that made a real difference in people's lives. The hospital visit was proceeding exactly as planned, creating positive publicity while highlighting important healthcare initiatives. However, news of the security guard's breach of protocol had begun to spread through the hospital's administrative offices. The head of security, a stern man named David Walsh, was informed of the incident by multiple witnesses. His immediate concern was maintaining the reputation of the hospital's security team and ensuring that such breaches didn't occur again during future royal visits. Walsh approached James during a quiet moment, his expression serious but professional. "Morrison, I need to speak with you about your interaction with Her Majesty." The conversation took place away from other staff members, but the tension was noticeable to anyone observing. James prepared himself for the consequences of his decision, understanding that his choice might have professional implications. "I understand your concern, sir," James replied calmly. "I showed appropriate respect to the Queen while maintaining my personal principles. I meant no disrespect to her or to the institution." His response demonstrated the same quiet confidence that had characterized his earlier interaction with Queen Camilla, showing that his actions were based on conviction rather than carelessness. Walsh struggled with the situation because James was an exemplary employee in every other respect. His service record was outstanding, his dedication to his duties was unquestionable, and his colleagues respected his professionalism. The protocol breach was significant, but it hadn't created any security risks or disrupted the royal visit. The situation required careful consideration rather than immediate disciplinary action. Meanwhile, Queen Camilla continued her tour, visiting the hospital's research laboratories where scientists worked on breakthrough treatments for childhood diseases. Dr. Maria Santos, a leading researcher in pediatric oncology, explained her team's work, developing less invasive treatment options for young cancer patients. The Queen listened intently, asking detailed questions about the research process and funding challenges. "Your Majesty's support brings tremendous value to our work," Dr. Santos explained. "When the royal family highlights medical research, it increases public awareness and often leads to additional funding opportunities." This practical impact of royal visits reinforced the Queen's belief in the importance of her role, showing how ceremonial duties could translate into tangible benefits for society. During a brief pause in the tour, Lady Margaret approached the Queen with a subtle expression of concern. "Your Majesty, there appears to be a minor situation regarding one of the security personnel. He failed to observe proper protocol during your arrival." She spoke quietly, ensuring their conversation remained private while alerting the Queen to the developing situation. Queen Camilla's mind immediately returned to the moment at the entrance, when she had noticed the guard's different approach to showing respect. Rather than feeling offended, she found herself curious about his motivations and impressed by his quiet dignity. "What specifically occurred?" she asked, wanting to understand the full context before forming any judgments. "The guard, a Mr. Morrison, offered only a nod rather than a proper bow," Lady Margaret explained. "The hospital's security management is addressing the matter, but I thought you should be aware in case it becomes a larger issue." Her tone suggested that such breaches were typically handled by others, but royal awareness was important for managing any potential complications. The Queen processed this information thoughtfully. Throughout her years of royal training, she had learned that protocol existed for important reasons, maintaining dignity and order during official functions. However, she had also observed that genuine respect could be expressed in various ways, and the guard's behavior had seemed respectful rather than dismissive. As the hospital visit neared its conclusion, Queen Camilla prepared for the closing ceremony, where she would unveil a commemorative plaque and offer remarks to the gathered audience. The successful visit had accomplished its goals of highlighting the hospital's work and demonstrating royal support for healthcare initiatives. However, the situation with the security guard had introduced an unexpected element that would require resolution. The hospital's main auditorium filled with staff members, patient families, and local dignitaries as preparations began for the closing ceremony. Queen Camilla would deliver remarks about the hospital's important work and unveil a commemorative plaque that would permanently mark her visit. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement as people took their seats, many using their phones to capture photos of this historic moment. James Morrison had been reassigned to monitor the auditorium's side entrance, a position that kept him away from the main ceremony, but still within the security perimeter. His supervisor's decision reflected the delicate nature of the protocol situation, while ensuring continued security coverage. From his new position, he could observe the proceedings while avoiding any additional interaction with the Queen. Dr. Chen took the stage to introduce the royal guest, expressing gratitude for the Queen's visit and explaining how royal patronage would benefit the hospital's continued expansion. Her speech highlighted specific programs that would receive enhanced funding and recognition as a result of the Queen's endorsement. The practical benefits of royal visits extended far beyond ceremonial value, creating opportunities for organizations to advance their missions. Queen Camilla approached the podium with grace and confidence, her crown catching the auditorium lights magnificently. The audience fell silent as she began her prepared remarks, speaking about the dedication of healthcare workers and the resilience of young patients who faced medical challenges with courage. Her words were carefully chosen to inspire while acknowledging the real struggles that brought families to the hospital. The work performed within these walls represents the very best of human compassion and scientific advancement, the Queen said, her voice carrying clearly throughout the auditorium. Every child who receives care here benefits not only from medical expertise, but from the love and dedication of people who have chosen to devote their lives to healing others. As she spoke, her eyes naturally scanned the audience, connecting with individuals throughout the room. During this visual sweep, she noticed James Morrison standing quietly at his assigned position. Even from a distance, she could sense his attentiveness to his duties and his respectful observance of the ceremony. The brief moment of eye contact reminded her of their earlier encounter and the questions it had raised in her mind. After completing her remarks, Queen Camilla moved to unveil the commemorative plaque, a bronze marker that would serve as a permanent reminder of her visit. The inscription read, "This plaque commemorates the visit of Her Majesty Queen Camilla, recognizing the exceptional care provided to children and families at this facility." The moment was captured by numerous photographers, ensuring the hospital would have lasting documentation of the royal endorsement. Following the ceremony, the Queen participated in a reception where she mingled with hospital staff, donors, and community leaders. These informal interactions often proved more valuable than formal presentations, allowing for genuine conversations about challenges and achievements. A young nurse named Rebecca shared how the hospital's family support programs had helped her own daughter during a difficult illness, creating a personal connection that transcended ceremonial protocol. During the reception, Lady Margaret discreetly informed the Queen that the security guard situation was being handled internally by the hospital administration. "Mr. Morrison has been counseled about proper protocol, and his supervisors are confident this type of incident won't occur again," she reported. The matter was being treated as a training issue rather than a disciplinary problem, reflecting the hospital's desire to avoid negative publicity during the royal visit. Queen Camilla nodded thoughtfully, but found herself wanting to understand more about the guard's perspective. Her years of experience in various social situations had taught her that people's actions often reflected deeper values or circumstances that weren't immediately apparent. The man's respectful demeanor and obvious competence suggested his behavior hadn't been motivated by disrespect or ignorance. As the reception continued, James Morrison maintained his security duties while observing the Queen's interactions with hospital staff and guests. Her genuine interest in people's stories and her ability to make meaningful connections in brief conversations impressed him. He had witnessed many public figures who performed their roles mechanically, but the Queen's engagement appeared authentic and heartfelt. Dr. Santos approached the Queen during the reception to express personal gratitude for her interest in pediatric research. "Your Majesty's questions about our work demonstrate a genuine understanding of the challenges we face," she said. "Royal support doesn't just provide funding. It gives our team motivation to continue pushing the boundaries of what's possible in children's medicine." The conversation with Dr. Santos reinforced Queen Camilla's belief in the importance of being well informed about the organizations and causes she supported. Her preparation for the visit had included extensive briefings about the hospital's programs, but nothing could replace direct conversation with the people doing the actual work. These personal connections made her role feel meaningful rather than merely ceremonial. As the reception began to wind down, Queen Camilla prepared for her departure. The visit had exceeded expectations, generating positive media coverage and strengthening relationships between the royal family and healthcare advocates. However, the situation with the security guard continued to occupy her thoughts, representing a departure from the carefully orchestrated nature of most royal engagements. David Walsh, the head of security, briefed his team about the successful completion of the royal visit, while addressing the protocol breach that had occurred. Moving forward, we need to ensure all staff members understand the importance of following established procedures during royal visits, he told his team. Mr. Morrison's service record is exemplary, but protocol exists for important reasons. James accepted the counseling professionally, understanding his supervisor's position while maintaining his personal convictions. His military background had taught him to respect authority, while staying true to his principles, a balance that sometimes created challenging situations. He regretted any complications his actions might have caused for the hospital or his colleagues. Meanwhile, Queen Camilla made her way toward the hospital exit, accompanied by Lady Margaret and other members of her staff. The successful visit would be remembered for its positive impact on the hospital's mission and the meaningful connections she had made with patients, families, and staff members. As she approached the main entrance where her car waited, she found herself hoping for another glimpse of the guard whose quiet dignity had made such an impression. The situation had created an interesting dilemma that challenged traditional expectations while raising questions about the evolution of respect and protocol in modern society. As the Queen prepared to leave, she realized that this unexpected encounter had provided valuable insight into how different people expressed respect and honor, potentially offering lessons that extended beyond hospital security procedures. As Queen Camilla approached the hospital's main entrance for her departure, she noticed James Morrison had returned to his original position near the doors. The afternoon sun streamed through the glass panels, creating patterns of light that danced across the polished floor. Her entourage moved in their customary formation, with Lady Margaret at her side and security personnel maintaining their protective positions around the royal party. The Queen's car waited at the curb, its engine running quietly as Thomas, the royal driver, stood ready to assist with her departure. Members of the press had gathered again, hoping to capture final images of the successful hospital visit. The timing was perfect for the evening news cycle, ensuring maximum coverage of the Queen's support for children's healthcare initiatives. Instead of proceeding directly to her vehicle, Queen Camilla made an unexpected decision that surprised her staff. She approached James Morrison directly, her expression thoughtful but warm. The move was unprecedented in Lady Margaret's experience, as royals typically didn't seek out individuals who had breached protocol for personal conversations. The surrounding staff members watched with quiet tension, uncertain about how to respond to this departure from standard procedure. "Mr. Morrison," the Queen said, reading his name tag as she drew closer, "I wanted to thank you for your service today, and for your dedication to keeping everyone safe during my visit." Her tone was genuine and respectful, acknowledging his professional competence while addressing the earlier protocol situation indirectly. James straightened slightly, clearly surprised by the Queen's approach but maintaining his composure. "Your Majesty, it was my honor to serve," James replied, once again offering the same respectful nod he had given earlier rather than a formal bow. His consistency demonstrated that his earlier behavior hadn't been accidental or thoughtless, but reflected a conscious choice about how he preferred to show respect. The Queen noticed this immediately, and rather than being offended, she found his authenticity refreshing. Lady Margaret watched the interaction with growing concern, aware that every moment was being observed by hospital staff, press photographers, and other witnesses. The Queen's decision to engage directly with someone who had breached protocol could create additional complications or send unintended messages about royal expectations. However, she also recognized the Queen's right to handle the situation as she saw fit. "I understand there was some concern about protocol today," Queen Camilla said quietly, ensuring their conversation remained as private as possible given the circumstances. "I want you to know that I appreciated the respect you showed in your own way. Sometimes the most genuine honor comes from authentic expression rather than prescribed gestures." James felt a wave of relief mixed with admiration for the Queen's understanding and wisdom. His decision had been based on personal principles developed through years of military service and life experience, but he had worried about causing problems for the hospital or his colleagues. The Queen's gracious response demonstrated a level of character that went beyond her royal title. "Ma'am, I meant no disrespect to you or to the institution you represent," James explained. "My respect for your position and your work is genuine, even if my way of expressing it differs from traditional expectations." His words were carefully chosen but heartfelt, reflecting both his military training in clear communication and his natural honesty. Dr. Chen observed the interaction from a respectful distance, amazed by the Queen's personal interest in resolving the situation. Most high-profile visitors would have simply ignored the protocol breach or left its resolution to subordinates. The Queen's direct engagement demonstrated a level of personal attention that spoke well of her character and her commitment to understanding the people she encountered. During her royal duties, the conversation between Queen Camilla and James Morrison lasted only a few minutes, but its impact extended far beyond its duration. Hospital staff members who witnessed the exchange later described feeling moved by the Queen's compassion and impressed by her willingness to bridge differences through understanding rather than demanding conformity. The moment became a defining example of leadership that valued people over procedures. "Your military service shows in your bearing and your dedication to duty," the Queen observed, having been briefed about James's background during the brief security discussion. "I respect the principles that guide your actions, even when they challenge traditional expectations. Sometimes progress requires people who are willing to think independently while maintaining their core values." As their conversation concluded, Queen Camilla extended her hand to James in a gesture of mutual respect. He accepted the handshake gratefully, understanding that this simple act represented acceptance and validation of his choice to express respect in his own authentic way. The handshake was captured by photographers, creating an image that would later be widely shared and discussed. Lady Margaret approached discreetly, indicating that the royal schedule required departure soon to maintain the day's timing. Queen Camilla nodded acknowledgement while maintaining her focus on James for a moment longer. "Continue your excellent work, Mr. Morrison. The hospital is fortunate to have someone with your integrity, protecting their patients and staff." The Queen's public endorsement of James's character effectively resolved any lingering concerns about the protocol breach while sending a broader message about the value of authentic respect. Hospital administrators who had worried about potential negative consequences instead found themselves praised for employing security personnel with such strong character and dedication. As Queen Camilla moved toward her car, she felt a sense of satisfaction about how the situation had been resolved. The encounter had provided an opportunity to demonstrate that the monarchy could adapt and evolve while maintaining its essential dignity and purpose. Her willingness to engage with different perspectives had turned a potential problem into a positive example of leadership. James Morrison watched as the royal entourage prepared for departure, feeling grateful for the Queen's understanding and impressed by her wisdom in handling their interaction. His colleagues approached with expressions of relief and admiration, acknowledging that the Queen's response had validated their respect for his character and professionalism. David Walsh, who had initially been concerned about the protocol breach, found himself reconsidering his approach to such situations. The Queen's handling of the matter had demonstrated that flexibility and understanding could sometimes achieve better results than rigid enforcement of traditional rules. The incident would likely influence how future protocol questions were addressed. As Queen Camilla settled into her car for the return journey to Windsor Castle, she reflected on the day's events and the unexpected lesson they had provided. The hospital visit had accomplished its intended goals while also offering insights into leadership, respect, and the evolution of traditional institutions in modern society. The encounter with James Morrison had enriched her understanding of the diverse ways people expressed honor and dignity. The royal car glided through London's busy streets as Queen Camilla settled back into her seat, the weight of the crown lighter somehow after the day's meaningful encounters. The afternoon traffic provided a buffer of normalcy between the formal atmosphere of the hospital visit and the approaching return to palace life. Through the tinted windows, she watched ordinary people going about their daily routines, reminding her of the connection between the monarchy and the citizens it served. Lady Margaret sat across from the Queen, her expression thoughtful as she processed the day's unexpected developments. In her decades of royal service, she had witnessed many protocol breaches and their various resolutions, but none quite like what had occurred with the security guard. The Queen's decision to engage personally with the situation had been both surprising and admirable, demonstrating a leadership style that valued understanding over rigid enforcement. "Your Majesty handled the situation with Mr. Morrison beautifully," Lady Margaret offered, her tone respectful, but warm. Your approach turned what could have been an uncomfortable incident into a positive example of compassion and wisdom. She had initially been concerned about the protocol breach, but the Queen's response had shown her a different way to view such situations. Queen Camilla smiled, adjusting her position slightly to relieve the weight of her ceremonial robes. Sometimes the most important moments during these visits are the unplanned ones, she reflected. That young man's integrity impressed me more than any formal bow could have. His respect was genuine, even if it was expressed differently than tradition dictates. The conversation in the car turned to broader questions about the evolution of royal protocol and the balance between tradition and authenticity. Queen Camilla had long believed that the monarchy's strength lay in its ability to maintain essential values while adapting to changing social expectations. The day's encounter had provided a practical example of how this philosophy could be applied in real situations. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, news of the Queen's gracious handling of the protocol situation spread quickly through the staff. Many employees who had witnessed the interaction described feeling impressed by her wisdom and kindness. The incident became a topic of positive conversation, with people sharing their observations about both the Queen's character and James Morrison's integrity. Dr. Chen found herself fielding calls from other healthcare administrators who had heard about the successful royal visit and wanted advice about hosting similar events. The positive coverage and the Queen's endorsement of the hospital's work were already generating increased interest from potential donors and partners. The royal visit was proving to have lasting benefits that extended far beyond the ceremonial aspects. James Morrison completed his shift with a sense of relief and gratitude for how the day had concluded. His colleagues expressed admiration for the way he had handled the situation and respect for the principles that had guided his actions. The Queen's public validation of his character had effectively ended any concerns about professional consequences from the protocol breach. As evening approached, Queen Camilla returned to Windsor Castle, where the familiar routines of royal life awaited her. The castle staff greeted her arrival with their customary formality, but she found herself viewing these traditional gestures through a new lens after her conversation with James Morrison. The various ways people expressed respect and honor seemed richer and more complex than she had previously considered. In her private chambers, the Queen carefully removed the St. Edward's crown, placing it on its specially designed stand where it would rest until the next formal occasion. The ancient symbol of monarchy had witnessed another day of service, another connection between the crown and the people it represented. The weight that had felt so significant in the morning now seemed natural and purposeful. Lady Margaret helped the Queen transition from her formal ceremonial attire to more comfortable evening wear, a ritual that marked the end of official duties and the beginning of private time. As they worked through the familiar routine, they continued to discuss the day's events and their broader implications for royal protocol and public service. "Do you think we should review our guidance about protocol expectations for future visits?" Lady Margaret asked, genuinely curious about whether the day's events might influence future procedures. The question reflected her professional dedication while acknowledging that change sometimes emerged from unexpected situations. Queen Camilla considered this thoughtfully as she settled into her favorite chair with a cup of tea. "I think we should emphasize that genuine respect is our primary concern, whether it's expressed through traditional bows or authentic acknowledgement like Mr. Morrison's. The form matters less than the sincerity behind it." The Queen's perspective represented a subtle but significant evolution in how royal protocol might be understood and applied. Rather than abandoning traditional forms of respect, she was suggesting that the monarchy could embrace various authentic expressions of honor while maintaining its essential dignity and purpose. That evening, as news coverage of the hospital visit aired on television, the interaction between Queen Camilla and James Morrison received particular attention. Commentators praised the Queen's handling of the situation, with many noting that her approach demonstrated both wisdom and compassion. The coverage presented the incident as an example of modern royal leadership that valued substance over mere ceremony. Social media reactions to the news coverage were overwhelmingly positive, with people expressing admiration for both the Queen's gracious response and the security guard's principled stance. The story resonated with many who had struggled with balancing personal authenticity against institutional expectations in their own lives. The royal encounter had become a broader symbol of respectful dialogue across differences. Dr. Santos, the pediatric researcher, watched the news coverage from her home and felt renewed appreciation for the Queen's visit. The positive attention would undoubtedly benefit her research programs, but more importantly, the Queen's approach to the protocol situation had demonstrated the kind of leadership that inspired people to excel in their own work and relationships. As the day concluded, Queen Camilla reflected on how a single unexpected moment had enriched her understanding of leadership and service. The encounter with James Morrison had reminded her that effective royal representation required not just following protocol, but also recognizing and honoring the diverse ways people express their best qualities. The crown she wore symbolized not just traditional authority, but the responsibility to connect authentically with the people she served. The hospital visit had accomplished all its intended goals, while also providing valuable lessons about respect, tradition, and the evolution of institutions in modern society. Queen Camilla felt grateful for the opportunity to demonstrate that the monarchy could honor both its historic traditions and the authentic expressions of respect from contemporary citizens who approached their duties with integrity and principle. 3 weeks after the hospital visit, Queen Camilla sat in her private study reviewing correspondence and planning future engagements. The morning light streamed through tall windows, illuminating stacks of invitations, briefing documents, and thank you letters that required her attention. Among the papers was a particularly thoughtful letter from Dr. Chen, reporting on the positive impact the royal visit had already generated for the Children's Hospital. The letter detailed increased donations, new volunteer applications, and enhanced partnerships with medical research institutions, all attributed to the publicity and endorsement generated by the Queen's visit. More importantly, Dr. Chen wrote about the lasting impression the Queen's compassionate leadership had made on hospital staff and the broader healthcare community. The ripple effects of royal engagement continued to expand in ways that validated the monarchy's modern relevance. Lady Margaret entered the study carrying a silver tray with the morning tea and a selection of newspapers featuring various royal coverage. Among the publications was a feature article about evolving royal protocol and the balance between tradition and authenticity in modern monarchy. The piece prominently featured the hospital incident as an example of thoughtful leadership that honored both institutional traditions and individual integrity. The Times has published quite a favorable analysis of your approach to the protocol situation, Lady Margaret noted, placing the newspaper where the Queen could easily review it. The writer suggests that your handling of the incident demonstrates how traditional institutions can maintain their essential character while embracing more inclusive approaches to respect and recognition. Queen Camilla smiled as she read the article, pleased to see that the broader implications of the hospital encounter were being understood and appreciated. The piece quoted several constitutional scholars who praised the Queen's ability to uphold royal dignity while demonstrating personal wisdom and compassion. Such positive coverage helped reinforce public confidence in the monarchy's continued relevance and effectiveness. The study's peaceful atmosphere was interrupted by the arrival of Sir Richard Pemberton, the Queen's private secretary, who brought news of an interesting development related to the hospital visit. His expression suggested the news was positive, but significant enough to warrant immediate attention. He had served the royal family for over 20 years, and had developed an excellent sense for distinguishing between routine updates and matters requiring special consideration. Your Majesty, we've received a rather remarkable request, Sir Richard announced as he took his customary seat across from the Queen's desk. The Children's Hospital Association has asked if you would consider serving as their patron, specifically citing your demonstrated commitment to their mission and your thoughtful approach to working with diverse groups of people. The request represented a significant honor and responsibility that would involve ongoing commitment to children's healthcare initiatives across the kingdom. Patronage roles were carefully selected to align with the Queen's personal interests and the monarchy's broader mission of public service. The timing of this particular request, coming so soon after the hospital visit, suggested that her approach to the protocol situation had enhanced rather than diminished her standing with healthcare organizations. Queen Camilla considered the request carefully, understanding that accepting patronage meant committing to long-term involvement in promoting children's healthcare initiatives. The role would involve regular visits to medical facilities, supporting fundraising efforts, and using her platform to raise awareness about pediatric health issues. Most importantly, it would provide ongoing opportunities to connect with healthcare workers, patients, and families who embodied the best qualities of compassion and resilience. "I'm very interested in this opportunity," the Queen replied thoughtfully. "The work these organizations do aligns perfectly with my values and my hopes for how the monarchy can serve society. Please arrange a meeting with the association's leadership so we can discuss the details and my potential contributions." Meanwhile, at the Children's Hospital where the initial encounter had taken place, James Morrison continued his security duties with renewed confidence and purpose. The Queen's validation of his approach had not only resolved the protocol situation, but it also inspired him to consider how his military values could contribute to civilian service. Several colleagues had approached him for advice about balancing personal principles with professional requirements, recognizing his experience in navigating such challenges. Dr. Chen had become something of a celebrity within the healthcare community, frequently invited to speak about the successful royal visit and its ongoing benefits. During these presentations, she always emphasized how the Queen's personal engagement and authentic interest in their work had made the difference between a routine ceremonial visit and a truly meaningful partnership. The story of the protocol incident had become a powerful example of leadership that valued substance over superficial compliance. The positive coverage of the hospital visit had also reached international audiences, with several foreign medical organizations expressing interest in similar partnerships with the British royal family. The Queen's approach to the protocol situation had been particularly well received in countries where traditional hierarchies were evolving to accommodate more diverse expressions of respect and recognition. As autumn arrived, Queen Camilla officially accepted the patronage of the Children's Hospital Association in a ceremony held at Buckingham Palace. Representatives from hospitals across the kingdom attended the event, including Dr. Chen and several staff members from the original hospital visit. The Queen's remarks emphasized her commitment to supporting healthcare workers who dedicated their lives to helping others, regardless of how they chose to express their respect and professionalism. During the patronage ceremony, the Queen specifically mentioned the importance of authenticity in public service, noting that the most effective partnerships were built on mutual respect and shared values, rather than rigid adherence to traditional formalities. Her comments were widely interpreted as a reference to the hospital incident, though she was careful to speak in general terms that applied to all her royal engagements. James Morrison was invited to attend the ceremony as a representative of hospital security, personnel who ensured safe environments for patient care. When the Queen recognized his presence during her remarks, acknowledging the vital role of security staff in healthcare settings, he offered the same respectful nod that had characterized their first encounter. This time, however, his gesture was met with understanding smiles from throughout the audience, who had come to appreciate different expressions of honor and respect. The ceremony concluded with the Queen unveiling a new initiative to provide enhanced funding for children's hospitals across the kingdom, with particular emphasis on facilities serving diverse communities. The program would support both medical equipment purchases and staff development programs, ensuring that royal patronage translated into tangible benefits for healthcare providers and their patients. In the months that followed, Queen Camilla's approach to the protocol incident became a case study in several leadership programs and diplomatic training courses. The situation was analyzed as an example of how traditional institutions could evolve while maintaining their essential character and purpose. Her decision to engage personally with the guard who had expressed respect in his own way was seen as a model for addressing differences through understanding rather than confrontation. Years later, the hospital visit would be remembered not primarily for its ceremonial aspects, but for the moment when a queen chose to honor authentic respect over traditional protocol. The encounter between Queen Camilla and James Morrison had demonstrated that true leadership often emerged from unexpected moments that challenged conventional expectations while affirming deeper values of mutual respect and human dignity. The story became part of the broader narrative about the evolution of the British monarchy in the modern era, showing how ancient institutions could adapt to contemporary values while maintaining their essential role in promoting public service and national unity. Queen Camilla's crown had witnessed many ceremonies and traditions, but perhaps none more significant than the day she chose to validate authentic respect over prescribed gestures, setting a precedent for future royal engagements. The Children's Hospital, where it all began, continued to thrive under royal patronage, with the commemorative plaque serving as a daily reminder that meaningful leadership often emerged from small acts of understanding and compassion. The encounter between a queen and a security guard had grown into something much larger, inspiring countless others to approach their own roles with greater authenticity and mutual respect. James Morrison eventually became head of security at the hospital, bringing his military discipline and personal integrity to bear on protecting some of society's most vulnerable members. His approach to leadership, validated by the Queen's gracious response to their first meeting, influenced a new generation of security professionals who understood that true respect came from character rather than ceremony. The story of Queen Camilla's regal crown